Comrades and friends, of all the things that our party values most, and certainly that's which I value most from the point of view of the world-class struggle, is our international significance, our international interest in the world struggle. And for many years, we had very little support from the international revolutionary segments and vanguard of the movement. When our party started in 1959, we had no support from the any international organization, and were completely isolated. And before undertaking to build a party, we knew that that would happen, and that in the face of all of that, we would nevertheless take up the cudgels for reaching out to the millions, to the workers of the world who are represented by the most advanced communist element. Now you see, today, we have no less than 20 messages from the international world community of communists. And it is a great source of confidence that the party has gotten recognition and is today in struggle for the vanguard position in the world communist movement. It is something of international significance itself to recognize. But it did not come easy. It didn't come easy. For instance, we had the message today from the Congo and the representation. I dare say, while small as the party was during the Lumumba struggle, we were the only party that had a demonstration, even though it was very, very small. And even though the delegation was detained, it was your chairman that went to get their release, even if he had to use his professionalism as an attorney to release them. That's how our initiation and relations with the workers and peasants of the Congo. And with respect to India, for instance. India now is coming close to having 1 billion people. And the Communist Party, Marxist, which sent us a message, represents not only hundreds of thousands, but millions. And it is a sign of the validity of our organization as a living, struggling organization, that they did send us the message, knowing in truth, as they met us in Korea, the size, but also the influence of our organization. When the Bhopal disaster took place in India, which took so many lives, and the Union Carbide Company exploded, taking so many lives, there was only one organization in this country that had a demonstration against the Union Carbide Company and against U.S. investments that are calculated for imperialist penetration. And this in itself is what we consider to be one of our most important characteristics as a revolutionary party. That in the heartland of U.S. imperialism, there is not that arrogance, not that exclusiveness which characterizes U.S. organizations as being dominant, to teach others, but that we learn from them and are assimilating the experiences of the international movement, and in particular paying the closest attention to relations with our colleagues, with our comrades, and with our allies in it. And I should say that in this hour today, May Day, when we witness the horror of the counter-revolution in Russia, and that they chose this particular day, May Day, to attack a revolutionary demonstration by the Communist Workers' Party, the party that sees eye to eye with us on the grave issues concerning the Soviet Union and the world. And that at this demonstration, where they beat the workers and used truncheons and who knows what else in order to show their relationship to the old Tsarist regime who did the very same thing. See? I hadn't intended to open up my discussion on the Russian question, but it is unavoidable in this kind of a context. For the Russian question has been, for all these many years, the supreme political question all over the world. The attitude toward the Soviet Union has been key since day one of the revolution. For the revolution or against it. Through thick and thin, while recognizing the deficiencies in the Soviet Union, and when necessary to distance ourselves from the leadership, while at the same time supporting the Soviet Union as a social structure, as a worker state. There has been no organization that even come close to us in that kind of a support. Of course, there are many who supported the Soviet Union precisely because they were strong and had the greatest influence and supported it uncritically, but not with us. Our policy of having a revolutionary critical attitude towards all social phenomena enable us not only to grow, but at the same time to get recognition precisely where we need it most and where the working class in the United States needs it most. It would be an error on our part to neglect entirely a discussion of the domestic situation in the United States and confine ourselves to the international questions, which of course are uppermost in the minds of Washington and particularly in the Pentagon. The U.S. is the center of imperialism, and to that extent it is the center of the world in many respects. And how would it be if we had an organization of 10,000 or 20,000 and we could not get the solidarity messages from the revolutionary and progressive communists that we got today? It would become a nationalist organization having no influence in the world and no influence in the class struggle. The important thing for us is to rise to the occasion of not only recognizing the international question, but raising it as part and parcel of the domestic class struggle in the United States. That's what all the rest of the world wants to see. That's what all our collaborators who sent in messages want to see when the day comes that we can organize and lead significant sections of the workers in the spirit of the class struggle and in the spirit of internationalism. That is what is important. Yes, to show solidarity in the Congo and in India as well, in El Salvador and in the hills of Palestine, so brutally oppressed. And where's there another organization that has done more in that connection? As I said, we cannot let the domestic situation go at a meeting like this, which is really to celebrate more its international effect and to show the class character of May Day as a revolutionary working class holiday. We all are aware, for instance, that the Pentagon spent $4 trillion. $4 trillion for war purposes. $1 billion is a lot of money. $10 billion is a lot of money. $100 billion is a lot of money. $1,000 billion is a lot of money. But $4 trillion, it is an almost impossible number for us to be acquainted with. See? Let alone this. This is the situation, is that we do not ponder, even in mathematical sense, the number of dollars. 4 trillion. See? That's 4 times 1,000 billion. Now, and why do I raise it? Why do I raise it? Because some time ago, Clinton asked the Congress of the United States, where he has a majority in both houses, to appropriate money for jobs, and asked for $26 billion. That's like asking for 20 cents on $1,000. It's probably less than that. Now, how little can you ask for jobs when you got $4 trillion for war purposes, and you ask for $26 billion, which is asking for pennies? And what does the Congress do? It denies it and cuts it down to $4 billion. Now, how could it be? How could it be that when they can spend $4 trillion on defense, and when you ask for just $26 billion, which is pennies, from 26 pennies, they cut it down to 4 pennies. And aside from the fact that nothing much has happened, you ask yourself, what is it? Is it greed? Doesn't this show the absolutely exorbitant, the most outlandish form of greed? Yes, it is greed, but it's more than that. It's more than that. Greed is a characteristic of all ruling classes. In the feudal ages, in slavery, wherever there's rich and poor, there is greed. But here there's something else involved. It's not only the greed. It's not the greed alone that has forced them to do this. It is the nature of the capitalist crisis. It's the fact that there is an excessive, highly excessive amount of unemployment. And that the unemployment is the cause of capitalist overproduction. What Clinton asked him to do was not to take money straight out of the Treasury and give it out to workers who are unemployed. He said to them, I will fight for a tax break for you so that you can invest in industry and employ workers. Now, how much kinder can you be to the ruling class? How much? To give them money so they can invest. And after they invest, then there'll be jobs, and after there are jobs, then something good will happen. Now, how is this possible under the system? Why, for instance, have they really turned it down? Is it greed alone? No, because at the present moment, see, right now, the capitalist system is suffering from tremendous capitalist overproduction, which is the cause of capitalist crisis. And it's not only in the United States, it's in Britain, it's in France, it's in Japan, it's spreading throughout all of Europe and in Latin America and everywhere, because there's a general crisis of capitalism. And what Clinton was doing and saying that he will give money for the capitalist class to invest to build, they, from their point of view, justly turned it down. Why? Because the country is overbuilt from their point of view. There's excessive investment, there is excessive production that's over and beyond what the working class can consume with the limited amount of monies that they have available. They want to cut down. They don't want to build up anymore. Yesterday's New York Times and today's New York Times showed that this growth is slowing down. And so is the whole world economy at the same time. And when you see that, and you look at Eastern Europe with its new capitalist structure, there's the same unemployment in Hungary, in Poland, in Romania, in Bulgaria, wherever they have adopted the capitalist reforms. Capitalist production immediately, capitalist overproduction immediately takes over, and the capitalist crisis is on. See? And this is not an invention of ours. This is a characteristic of the present era. It's an era that begs the working class leadership to organize itself and prepare for the coming struggle. This situation cannot continue for a long time. Let us get it very straight. It isn't that the ruling class is so greedy, which of course it is, see, that it turned down a mere pennies for unemployment. It's because the capitalist overproduction has forced them to the very end. They don't want to invest in building because they've overbuilt. And the workers can't buy back with what they have produced. Without tiring the audience with statistics, I want to bring this out, see. Last year, the workers in this country produced $6 trillion worth of goods and services. That's called the domestic gross product. It's in all the world almanacs, and it's all in all the capitalist papers. 6 trillion. See? It's a world record. They tell you American workers can't produce. They compare them sometimes to the Japanese and say that Japanese workers, the U.S. workers are lazy and all that. But the production, the whole area, see, and numbers of dollars of 6 trillion. It's enough to feed the whole world. And yet, because the system is run for profit instead of for use, it is unable to provide the working class a living, and that the decline in the standard of living continues unabated since the Reagan administration took over. We have to ask ourselves, in these 12 years, beginning with Reagan along, as though it's just an arbitrary figure, really, since Reagan got in and since Clinton took over, the gross national product, which is what the workers produce, see, ran between $4.5 and $6 trillion each year. Roughly speaking, $5 trillion per year. That's $60 trillion. Not 60 million, not 60 billion, but 60 trillion. And what has happened to the standard of the United States? Amidst all this wealth, there is a greater poverty than ever. See? The capitalist system is not one that is slow in production. It's not a system that is characteristic of scarcity. The capitalist system is characteristic of superabundance of product and productivity. That is the problem with it. That's the problem. That it can force production as a result of exploitation, but they cannot do it in a way that satisfies the demands of the working people, because the lust for profit is superior to any other motive that they may have. Capitalism is a profit-making system. It is the only system where it produces in abundance to such an extent that it causes a capitalist crisis. And now, after these 12 years of $1 trillion, $60 trillion, and after the Gulf War, and after the tiny little war in Somalia, after what they did in Panama, after what they are doing right now in the Balkans, what does that indicate? What does that show? It shows that they're unable to put their system in order now without an artificial stimulant like militarism. They can't get the system going on its own natural juices, so to speak. No, it can't do that. what does the recent and most outrageous intervention by the U.S. in the Balkans show? What does it show? It shows that the system cannot run without an artificial stimulus, politically and economically, and for that reason its expansionist lure goes into this small area. What drove it into there? Many people are thinking again and again, why does the U.S. need to go in there? They have everything that they want from the Balkans. They have so-called goodwill. That country is open to investment all the time. It is open to exploitation. It has not been hostile to U.S. imperialism. It had an open door policy. Why is it necessary for them to be there? Why have they rounded up the allies who are opposed to them in the first place and got them into it? Now, on the one hand, it is a diversion from the domestic struggle. On the other hand, it is very, very much part and parcel of the organic expansionism of capitalism throughout the whole world, leaving no corner unturned, leaving no stone unturned. Now, what do we learn from this? We can see a parallel of what happened before. What's happening in the small Balkan few countries is a rerun of what happened in the First World War. Ask anybody why the U.S. got into it, why Germany and why France and Italy and Austria got into it. Was there any specific reason for it? Was there any basis even of an economic character to get into it? No. It was that the imperialist robbers were getting ready for a redivision of the world, of all its resources, of all its markets, in fact, of all its assets. And that this little group of small countries stood independently more or less in the way, and that it was necessary to chop it up, divide it up, or swallow it up in some way in order to make the greater war. Now, many, many socialists at the time tried to analyze the First World War on the basis of what was going on in this small country. What did it mean to have the Serbians on one side and the Bosnians on the other, or the Croats? Yes, and many socialists, among the most prominent, tried in every way to understand what was going on the basis of examining what was happening in this small group of countries. But they could not come up with any successful answer that would illuminate what was really happening. But it remained for the few Marxists who remained true to revolutionary Marxism to come up with the answer. And they said, in so many words, don't look at this small country for the answers as to why the imperialists are getting there. Look at the imperialists themselves. They have no business there, whatever is going on over there. Because the struggle among them is a struggle for survival of one imperialist group of nations as against another group. And what's happening among the nationalities is really irrelevant and should not be the cause for imperialist intervention. They should stay out of it. That was the Leninist position. And as far as which side is which, the Leninist position, and especially on May Days, was this: do not take sides with any of the imperialist countries. Do not embellish one as against another. They are equally predatory and vicious and are concerned mostly with their own profits. The tactic of the proletariat, Lenin said, is to carry out revolutionary defeatism, to defeat each one of the imperialist countries on the basis of international solidarity. See? And not to get enmeshed in the intricacies of the national question in the Balkans. Surely that is important, but it's most important for themselves to solve it, to give them an opportunity, as it did in forming a federation and so on. May Day in the First World War represented a challenge to imperialism. Whoever came out on the May Day demonstration during the First World War was immediately recognized as anti-imperialist and pro-socialist. And this is what we have to revive. There are too many controversies about the Second World War. But the parallel with the First World War is clear. It is that the masses are being dragged into something that which there is no concern. It should not be taken for good coin, the tears that are being shed for Bosnia. They are crocodile tears, and that are not meant to be sincere. They could equally start crying for Serbia tomorrow, or for the Croats, depending upon how the imperialists view each other's interests. Marxism teaches the workers not to go by vague political sympathies or nationality alone, but to look where the class interest is. What class interest do the British workers have in seeing their soldiers go into Slovenia or to the other parts of Yugoslavia? What? There isn't money. There's no interest for the working class. The same for the French workers. And of course, the same for the United States. We must, on this May Day, dedicate ourselves more than ever to a more vigorous, a more intransigent struggle against imperialism as the acid test for the revolutionary struggle of the working class for power. May Day has been recognized everywhere as a revolutionary holiday. We are proud of the messages we got. We're proud that the Russian Workers' Party has seen fit to have this demonstration and to challenge the brutality of the police and more or less of the counter-revolutions headed by Yeltsin. We look forward to the regeneration of the USSR. No system ever passes or goes down to defeat unless its potentialities have been thoroughly exhausted. And the potential of the former USSR is by no means exhausted. The working class has not been defeated in a decisive battle. As we said in our issue of the paper, the struggle is still by word of mouth and propaganda. The decisive struggle, whether the counter-revolution will win or the proletariat will regenerate the USSR, is still to come. and we are solidly on the side of the proletariat, against a counter-revolution and against imperialism which supports it all over the world. Long live the socialist revolution. We rededicate ourselves on this day to a firmer and more consistent struggle against imperialism and capitalism. Long live Workers' World Party.